I'm so excited for today's episode because my friend and partner, Bob Negen with Whiz-Bang Training is joining me. And I just am so happy that we were able to have this conversation. I have known Bob probably for 13 or 14 years. I first met him at his own conference, the Retail Success Summit. And I was speaking there. And ever since, he has just been a great partner to us at Crystal Media, a great mentor to me. When I first started Crystal Media almost 10 years ago, I needed help. I needed help on how to price my products and how do I get more speaking gigs. And Bob totally helped me out several times. And he's just such a heart-based businessman, which is something I really just love about Bob. Today we're talking about his zone of genius. We're talking about a crazy business story that he has. He also shared a couple of secret tools that he uses to help increase his physical performance. I'm blown away by some of the technology that's out there that he's using. It's so fascinating. And we talk about what the future is for Whiz-Bang Training. There's some very exciting stuff that's happening there. So I'm so excited for you to hear and learn more. But before we dive in, let me just tell you a little bit more about Bob. Bob Negen, co-founder of Whiz-Bang Retail Training, is a professional retail speaker, consultant, business coach, and author. Bob motivates and trains independent retailers to improve and grow their businesses with practical, actionable tactics and strategies. He speaks to independent business owners in their language using real-world retail experience and humorous stories from the trenches. From quilters and crafters, gift stores and clothing boutiques to toy stores and pet supply merchants, Bob's expertise gives retailers tools with measurable results. As a retailer, Bob turned a single kite store into an award-winning multi-million-dollar toy store chain. Now he uses his 3 decades of retail experience to help store owners and managers learn the necessary business skills they need to succeed in today's economy. You could check out whizbangtraining.com as well as retailsuccesssummit.com. We talk about that event. It is the best retailer event around. It's happening in June. I will be there, and we do our own social media day the day before as well. So check that out too. And again, so excited for this episode. So let's get this party started. Are you ready to open up and talk about all things business? I'm Crystal Vilkaitis, a curious entrepreneur who loves talking about business, especially over a glass of wine. I started Crystal Uncorked to share open and honest conversations about my journey and talk to other entrepreneurs about their experiences. We pull back the curtain and talk about the highs and the lows. Wine isn't required, but is recommended. This is Crystal Uncorked. Bob, welcome to Crystal Uncorked. I'm so thrilled you're here.
Well, thank you, Crystal. It's my honor to be here. I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see what we talk about.
Me too, because so for a little bit of history for anybody listening or watching, Bob and I have known each other for probably 13, 14 years, where I first met him speaking at a Retail Success Summit. And ever since, I didn't let him get rid of me. I've been hanging out ever since.
You don't let somebody get rid of you, Crystal. Right. Once you're attached to somebody, you're attached because you're so awesome.
Oh, I love that. Well, and you guys, everybody at Whiz-Bang Training has been amazing, but I've loved working with you and Susan over the years. I feel like you've been a mentor to me. I've learned a lot, and we just so love our partnership. And what's exciting about today is it's a little different because we've got some wine. We're going to just open up about business and have a conversation about your business. So let's start there. Tell me what you're drinking.
So today, usually I'm a red drinker, and I almost bought a bottle of Herman's Story, that I love, but I think I'm going to have a salad for dinner tonight. So I bought a nice bottle of the Fabulous Chardonnay. It's got, I don't know why there's flies on there, or whether No, those are
Yeah.
bees. I'm sorry. But it's a lightly oaked Chardonnay. I like Chardonnays, but I like them unoaked or lightly oaked. You know, a lot of people like heavily oaked. It just doesn't, it's not for me. So, but this is quite delicious. So
I
I'm
love
happy.
it. Well,
It gave me a
and
good
I've got
excuse to, yeah, so, and yours. Tell us about
exactly. It is
yours.
right. So, and I'm going to have to try the wine Herman Story. Is that what you said? Because I've not tried
Herman
that before.
Story, yes,
Story, yeah.
yes. Drink Herman
Okay.
Story. It's not inexpensive, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I like worth it. That I'm happy to try some good wine. So today, what I have is a Dow. It's a cab. I'm often drinking cab.
I almost bought a Dow Chardonnay.
Are you serious? That would have been
I'm
so
dead
funny.
serious. I'm dead
Oh my
serious. Yeah.
That would have
Dow
been
was
hilarious.
super solid wine. Yes, we like that cab too.
Yeah, I agree. So, Bob, cheers. I'm so glad you're
Cheers.
here on the show.
All right. Whoop, I didn't polish my glass before I came here, but
I know there's a little. You could see my lipstick
oh no,
on here.
there's spots on my glass.
Hey, we don't need to have fancy polished
That's
glasses
right.
on
Well,
this show. We're uncorked.
Yeah, I was a waiter for 12 years. So, I mean, it's almost habit when
Oh, totally. Where were you a waiter? Was it the same restaurant?
No, God, no. I started working as a waiter at Pizza Hut when I was a freshman in college. So I hate to even say it was 1974. But then I worked my way up to fine dining restaurants. And, by the time I left, I actually worked as a waiter one of the summers when the Mackinac Kite Company first started because I needed to make money.
Right.
The kite shop wasn't making enough. And for 2 years, I worked in the off season when the Mackinac Kite Company wasn't open. So,
Smart.
I mean, the restaurant business has treated me incredibly well. So, yes.
Yeah, same. I was a waitress at Chili's for 4
At
years.
Chili's.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
I always think what's the worst that could happen if my business crumbled for some reason? I'll go back to waiting tables. I loved it.
Yeah.
So Bob, let's dive in and
Okay.
will you share why you started your business, Whiz-Bang Training?
Sure. So I had a retail business for 19 years. In 83 or in 81, I was 23. I'm transposing the numbers in my head. I haven't drank that much wine either.
I know.
But I was a very typical retail story in that, I had just graduated from college, didn't want to get a real job, and I had a new hobby, flying kites. So I thought I'd open a kite store because, how hard can it be to run a store? I shop. Therefore, I could run a store. That's a very 23-year-old logic. So for 19 years, I built that business. And, I went through all of the struggles that, every retailer goes through. Even people who come into retail with some experience, when you become an independent, it's a different ball game. And so I grew it for a long time, and then I met Susan and my brother Steve, who was my junior partner, my younger brother, junior partner. And so we had built a good business. We had a great reputation on the street. We grew every year. We paid taxes on profits every year. We didn't always have cash, and that's part of how Susan comes into this story. But so we had a good business, but it wasn't quite right. There were all these holes in my skill set, in our skill set, Steve and I. And then I met Susan, and she was a trained retailer. She was an executive at Macy's and Bloomingdale's. And I remember clearly one day going, oh my goodness, somebody actually taught her how to do this. This is, I hate to say it, but this is all this stuff dates me, but this is before the internet. So, there wasn't a retail mastery system. There wasn't social media. There wasn't email. There wasn't, so everybody that was out there in the world was more or less figuring it out on their own.
Yep.
And two things happened. One was I was at the Kite Trade Association convention one year, And I always led what was something I started called the Retailer's Idea Exchange. And what I realized from leading that and being with my peers in the kite world, who were also hobbyists, right? They were hobbyists in that they were kite flyer, and they were hobbyists in that they didn't really know what they were doing as retail professionals. And what I realized was that we, as in the Mackinac Kite Company, had put together a skill set, an entire package. And so when Susan came, she added that sort of retail professionalism to the entrepreneurial energy that Steve and I brought to it. And it really, all of a sudden, it transformed our business. We went from not quite right to wham, we were on rails. And then Steve came to me, and, like I said, he was, my junior partner. I was the founder, and he wanted a shot at running it. And, that's perfectly legitimate. So one day we had many stores at the time, and I was getting ready to go to our store. We live in Grand Haven. Here's Michigan. There's Grand Haven. There's Mackinac City. We were going to go up to Mackinac City for Labor Day, and Steve handed me an envelope and said, it was an offer. And we weren't an hour outside of Grand Haven. I said to Susan, I'm going to take it. It was time for me to do something else. I knew that retailers needed what we had. I didn't want retailers to have to go through what I went through. And, Susan and I had this, super compatible skill set, and away we went. So that's how WhizBang training started. So that's the long story.
Yeah. Love it. And then talk a little bit about WhizBang training today. So what year did you guys start WhizBang?
We started WhizBang training in 99.
99.
In November of 99. Yes.
Awesome. And today it makes up, you guys have the best training for retailers, whether they're brand new, they've been in business forever. It's all encompassing, and we'll link to everything, of course, and we'll talk more about what you do with WhizBang training. But I'm so thankful that Susan came along and that your energies collided to create this beautiful business, because our retailers need it. Like, it's tough. It's really tough. Running a business is hard. And that's part of why I wanted to start the show, is to talk about like the hard stuff, the open and honest stuff, And when you don't have that outlet or that community or that training, it can feel really, you're alone and it's overwhelming. And so I'm just so grateful that you guys did collide and create what you have today. And we share a lot of the same clients, and they just get such great results from you guys. So I'm so glad.
Thank you. And thank you. And that was one of, that was one of the things we wanted to do, is we knew that was necessary. And, and Susan coined a great term. She calls it business lonely. And it's so true, and especially, I'm sure it's this way in every business, but in retail, the story is, as you know, somebody starts a business and that's all they can think about. That's all they can talk about. It's all consuming. And pretty soon your spouse doesn't want to hear about it. Nobody wants to hear your stuff anymore. Right.
Right.
And so that's one of the things that I think we've done very successfully, is given people a place to come together in a positive way. And that's certainly one of the things that we enjoy doing.
Yeah, I love it. Now, kind of on that same token, but shifting gears a little bit, I love talking about zone of genius on the show. That one thing that you're really good at, that you also love, because we could be really good at stuff, but not really love it. Right. And then we can love something, but we're not great at it. So what is your zone of genius?
So I think... So Susan and I disagree about this, about my, what Dan Sullivan calls unique ability. Right. She thinks that my unique ability is a speaker. And I am a very, if I can so modestly say, I'm a good speaker. I'm a motivating speaker. But I think my zone of genius, as you call it, is I'm able to see business, retail, and specifically independent retail, even more specifically, from a higher level. I think that I look at independent retail and what it does and the unique opportunities that it presents and the sort of the interesting problems that it encounters. Because I spent 19 years doing it, there's this idea of pattern recognition. It's the 10,000 hour rule, that when you do something long enough, you see the underlying, whoops, Susan just called me.
Oh.
I turned on Do Not Disturb there, but not there. So, but
she's crashing our interview.
I don't want to talk to her. She's sitting on the beach in Florida. It's snowing here today. I do want to talk to her, but anyway. But to see the underlying patterns. So I'll give you an example of this. So if anybody who is listening to this podcast has been part of our community for any amount of time, you know that we teach cause marketing differently than anybody. This idea of creating strategic partnerships, and when a local nonprofit or a local organization sends their customers to you, you reward them and reciprocate with them by giving them a percentage of the sales that are generated. And I was speaking to the basket connection. So back when corporate gift baskets were a big thing, there was a trade organization called the Basket Connection, and I spoke with them several times. And somebody, in fact, I still remember her name. Her name was April West. Said, what I do with my local hospital is if anybody buys a basket through me, I donate a percentage of their sale back to the hospital guild. In Crystal, it was like everything that we teach right now. It was just like, I saw the whole thing on stage, the whole thing. And it was so cool. I was like, and everybody's looking at me like, oh my God, I see this. I saw multi-partner, multi-merchants. I just saw the whole thing. It was this idea of, I had been thinking about it and I had immersed myself in the information enough so that when the opportunity came, the patterns just all of a sudden clicked into places. It's like when you see a chess master, when they can play 20 games at once. It's not that they're playing 20 games at once. They've just spent so much time looking at a chessboard that when they see the board, they see the patterns. Yep. And so they just look at the board. In fact, the studies show that if they put a piece out of place, they'll go, something's not right on this board. And I think that's my zone of genius. I've been doing this for, over 40 years. And how many tens of thousands of retailers have I talked to? And so exactly. I think that would be my answer.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. You have your own experience with the kite store, but then all the different types of retailers that you've worked with over these years and heard their struggles and their challenges and heard what works for them and all the things, and being able to take that together and map it out in your mind and take that step back and really look at the full picture is definitely a powerful trait to have. And I can so see that from you. So I was definitely going to.
And so if you don't mind me, so I want to shout out to everybody, so like our Platinum Mastermind group, it's 25 of, most of the people in that group. A lot of them are your clients. And these are really, really great retailers. And so you think about, somebody with my experience, but I get, I haven't had a store for, 20 some years now.
Right.
But when I get into the room with them and I get to hear what they're doing and add my experience and it's a beautiful, beautiful little brew.
Yeah. It's magical. You create some magic there for those retailers. Yeah. I love it so much.
For me, I guess that's what I was saying. It's magical for me.
It's magical for you too. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, no. I'm there. I'm going, that's a great.
Yes.
Well, when I see you speak, Crystal, like it's some
all the notes. Yes, all the ideas. I love it so much. Now, you've been in business. You've worked with a lot of different businesses, obviously, and retailers. Tell me a time of a crazy story that happened to you while you've been in business.
All right. So, and this was my keynote 3 years ago. My son, Sam, said to me, Bob, or Dad, he said, you've never told the yo-yo story. Have you heard my yo-yo story? Did you hear that keynote?
Yep.
Okay. So here is the super short version of the yo-yo story. So I told you about the retailer idea exchange, right? So it was when Steve and I, before I met Susan, we were really struggling. And, we were making the transition from being a kite store to being a toy store. And so it was the idea exchange. And my friend Alan Nagao from Hawaii stands up and he throws down a yo-yo and he said, I sold $30,000 worth of yo-yos last year. It's when it's sleeping, right? So it's very dramatic. He throws the yo-yo down and it's sleeping. In fact, so
do you have one?
Yo-yos. I had yo-yos on my little shelf here.
Oh, bummer.
Bummer. Anyway, I wasn't going to show you. I'm not a very good yo-yo player.
Oh, I wanted to see tricks. I mean, that would definitely help.
Yeah, I know. But so anyway, I went home and Steve wasn't even at KTA that year because, it was when I was like, we can only afford to send one of us. But we did everything that Alan said. And it took off, just like Alan said it would. And so that first year in Grand Haven, we sold like $30,000 worth. It was about the same as Alan's. So, but one of the things that Alan said to us was, you need to have a yo-yo pro. And this is really before the internet. Yeah. And so my brother, Steve, found Linda Singpeel, who had been on the Smothers Brothers show. I don't know, it's an old variety show. And she was a world champion yo-yo player. And she was actually on a Duncan yo-yo packaging with a beehive hairdo and all these things. So we hired Linda Singpeel. Somehow Steve found her, and she was going to come up for 3 days. And so she was going to go into schools and do the yo-yo show. But it turns out that the week we hired her was the week of parent-teacher conferences, so we only got a half day. Oh. Well, we were paying her for a full day, so we're like, what are we going to do? So we rented the local movie theater downtown, right? And it's an old theater, but a big theater. And so day one, so she comes up, and day one, all the kids started to like her. So we had a half day in school and then the show for 3 days. So the first day, the theater was about half full. We charged $1. And she would do things like, everybody's doing a locomotion. Oh, and then she would get somebody from the audience and they'd put a match in their mouth and she'd throw the yo-yo and there was sandpaper on the match and she'd light the match, right? So it's this great show. But every day the show got bigger. And on the third day, all of a sudden we're backstage and all of a sudden Susan comes backstage and goes, uh-oh, what's going on? And it was, the theater kept filling up and filling up. So I went out on stage and I said, hey, if you got a seat next to you, raise your hand. They kept coming in and coming in. And then they're sitting on the front. Then they're sitting in the aisles. And then we went outside and the line went all the way to the end of the street and around the corner. Oh, it was like, we got to start the show right now because the fire marshal's going to shut us down. Right. So that was just the first year. And then we learned how to sell yo-yos. And then we hired full-time yo-yo professionals. At one time, we had 8 full-time yo-yo professionals. Wow. We had 13 Yo-Yo Universe kiosks in malls. You know how you see a kiosk in malls? We were doing $14,000 days off a kiosk in a mall. Wow. We had a $250,000 week in December of '99. So it all went crazy, but the long story, it all imploded on us at the same time, which is another part of the whole conversation. So I've told that story to like Randy Gage and Paul Lemberg, people who have a lot of experience, but like Randy was like, that's one of the craziest business stories I've ever heard. Yes, seriously. I mean, it went, and then, it was just nuts.
I mean, could you have imagined like your high school self? You're like, hey, one day you're going to be selling a shit ton of yo-yos. Like,
yo-yo, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and to this day, When I speak in Michigan, sometimes I'll reference the yo-yo boom and somebody will raise their hand. Oh yeah, I bought a yo-yo from you.
Love
Like
it.
the schools, like they're, the big super giant junior high schools, they had to ban yo-yos. They, like this one school, East Kentwood Junior High, they have 4 gymnasiums and the only place that kids could play yo-yos were in 3 of the gymnasiums because yo-yos were flying. It just was out of control. It was great.
Oh, that is so crazy. That is such a good story.
Crazy.
Oh my gosh. I love it so much. How wild. Now, if you could do it all over again, and let's talk about, well, you choose, or if you want to answer this for either the kite store or whiz-bang training. But if you could do it all over again, what is the number one thing that you would do differently?
If I had to do it all over again, especially at the kite store, I would have been much, much more focused on finding mentors. Or the mentors that I had, I would have done more with them.
Yeah.
So there's this idea, so you know it because you've heard me talk about it, of the retailer's journey. And when people get into retail, they're shopkeepers. And one of the traits of a shopkeeper is that they're very, very tactical and they're very keen on figuring things out.
Right.
And, and so the next stage in that journey is retail professional. And like I said, this is, when I was coming up in retail, it was before the internet. And so I learned everything the hard way. I learned everything by figuring it out on my own till I met Susan. But, there are resources. What I should have done is recognize what I didn't know. Once I got to the place of conscious incompetence, when I knew what I didn't know, I should have been much more intentional about going out and finding it. And even to this day, and we've been doing this a long time, we're just really, really starting to embrace who, not how. And we taught it long before Dan Sullivan made it a big concept. We taught it, but we didn't really live it like we should. And now with the internet, there's no reason for you to not have the skills you need to be successful.
Right.
And, and that goes for me and Susan. We have a new platform. The Retail Sales Academy is expanding. And, we're definitely, you and I had this conversation. For all of your listeners, Crystal and Susan and I had brunch together in Grand Rapids when Susan was in West Michigan for a speaking engagement. But, we had the conversation about one of our mutual friends as a possible who, not how, to help us with this thing we don't know. And exactly. I see this all the time. People don't know what they're doing, and so they just muddle through it rather than going, oh, I don't know this, but somebody does. Let me go find that. And, paying the money, buying the program, coming to the seminar, coming to the Retail Success Seminar. Totally. Tony Robbins says success leaves clues, and it does.
I so agree. Well, and I feel like you learned that with your kite store, and then you took that into whiz-bang training, because I know that you guys have had some mentors or coaching programs, things like that. So you kind of like learned that lesson, took it into the new, business, what you have today. And I think too, it's funny, like I think business owners, we just struggle with this, right? Of like letting go, the delegation, and taking a moment to really think about, what do I really need? What's going to really help turn the volume up here? And who's right for that?
That's right.
And, we've been going through this with a marketing manager, for example. Like, we haven't had a marketing manager really ever. and we'll be
Right.
celebrating our
And you're a
10-year.
marketing company.
I know. It's like, what? This is insane.
The
And
cobbler's children has no shoes.
exactly. Like, how have we not had a marketing manager? And Pauline's been asking for one for like years. And we finally, I think we hired somebody. He starts on April 11th. So I think he's going to be great. But like, I've been doing the job until he starts. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much. Like, so glad we're hiring.
Hey, Crystal, you know, there's this company I know, Crystal Media, and they have a course on how to hire a marketing manager.
Yep. That is very, you don't have to check them out. Crystal Media, you said? I'll check them out.
So I have a friend, Susan and I have an old friend, and he's an old kite flying friend, but he had a chef, he was a chef and he had a restaurant. And the name of the restaurant was The Starving Chef, because the chef is always the last person to eat.
Yep.
And, you know, and so this whole thing is absolutely applicable to, you know, us at WhizBang Training. You know, I have been, you know, we have been in masterminds. We have done a lot. But if I had to do it again, you know, our friend and colleague, Jeff Walker, you know, I mean, he accepted me, us into his mastermind when it was brand new. He was like, you guys would be a great fit. We had 100 different reasons not to join. When I think about the millions of dollars that we would have earned by being in that group for the last 15 years, you know, it's that there's always a reason not to, but you know, when we talk about lessons learned, and we're still learning it, is find a reason to, not a reason not to.
I love that. Yep. Excellent advice. I have to ask, do you still fly kites?
Not very much.
No.
Okay. You know, I have a really nice kite bag. I mean, not the bag, but I mean, it's filled with really nice kites.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is, you know, when you're a hobbyist. So, you know, for instance, I quit going to the beach for a while, because if I was at the beach and both of our stores are always around beaches, right? Or were, and somebody was having problems with their kites, I couldn't sit there and watch them have a problem. and so that was why I didn't fly kites when I was you know, when I was in the kite business. And then we had children. And then when we went to the beach, you know, we were growing a business and we had kids to watch, and I was tired. I just wanted to sit on the beach. And, you know, if you're going to put up a big show, which is what we do, you know, it's not like put up a little kite. It's like your position, you're creating a work of art in the sky by where you position the kites, the size of the kites. You know, some are up, some are down. You know, I mean, you're really using the sky as your canvas, and, you know, you're working it. You know, it's work, and I didn't want to work it. So
Sure. That makes sense, because, yeah, you have a different idea of what flying kites means than I do. That's for sure, than the average person probably. So, I had to know. So do you have a secret weapon, an app, or a tool that you're willing to share with the audience?
An app or a tool, a secret weapon. So here's where I would start. So more and more, I am convinced that understanding yourself and understanding why you behave the way you do, the beliefs that you have, managing yourself and your states is one of the secrets to success. And so the first app that I would share with your listeners is 10% Happier.
Okay.
I like it better than, say, Calm, which is, or Headspace. I like it because there's always a mindfulness lesson followed by a guided meditation. And that's really where I started. And I always understood the value of meditation at our Platinum Mastermind groups. Every day, since the beginning, we've started the day with meditation. And so I've always understood the value, but it was really until I started understanding what mindfulness does that it really started to help me a lot. Now, so that's the first one.
Okay.
So just having a mindfulness practice is invaluable for any entrepreneur. So, but the second app, I'm now in a performance program. And the next app is called, I need to make sure I get this right here, Inner Balance by Heart Math.
Okay.
So it measures, really what it is, it's neurofeedback when you're meditating. So there's a little sensor that you put on your ear. So you probably don't want to do it in public,
right.
But then you meditate. But as you meditate, it is giving you real-time feedback on coherence, and coherence is is whether your brain and your heart are in sync.
Wow.
So you're managing coherence in real time, and you're getting better at it. So really, what it is, it's meditation and mindfulness. With a really super slick piece of technology added onto it. So, yeah.
Those are like great secret weapons and apps. Thank you for sharing. I can't wait to check both of those out. I haven't heard of them.
So Crystal, so let's talk about it, because you're a data person, right?
Yeah.
So I have my Aura ring here.
Yeah.
And
nice.
So right now, so I've never been a data person, but right now, all of a sudden I'm into it.
Yeah.
So I have a Susan and I have a Sleep 8 mattress, which is a water-cooled mattress that also gives you feedback on your sleeping habits and your sleeping statistics. Wow. I have my Aura ring, but the one that I like a lot, it's called Welltory, Welltory. And I like the sleep feedback I get from my mattress. I like what I get from the Aura ring, but I have found the feedback from Welltory to be really, really great. And this has come from my performance coach. But here, you push a button, and you see how it's like, so what you do is you put your finger over the camera, and it reads what's happening through your skin.
This is incredible.
It's incredible. It really is. And so I have kind of become addicted to, and I got to stop it. No, I don't. So right now I'm getting a lot of data. Yeah. But I'm sort of really learning how to sort out the data, because, and all of your listeners will relate to this, I think. COVID has sort of changed everything for everybody. Right. And now that we're finally coming out of it, I think everybody has a better idea of what they want. Yep. And I mean, if it's one thing that it's sort of clarified for people, is all of the bullshit that we went through really got us clear on, I mean, this is why we're going to see a real surge in new independent retailers, I think, soon. It's because people are going to go, wait a second. I've been it's been my dream my whole life. I'm going to do it. Yeah. So for me, what I want for the next phase of my life, I'm old. I just turned 65 last October, is I want to be much more efficient. I want to up my game, but play less. Mm-hmm. So, I want to, I really want to do more great work, but do more, live my life in a way that's very, very intentional. Yes. So part of that is me having to up my performance game. And so that's the psychology, the physiology, being able to be in flow and be productive. So that's a long answer to your question, what's a secret weapon?
Oh, it's a beautiful answer, though. And I just want to clarify with Welltory and how you scan your finger on the phone. So what kind of data do you get from that?
So it gives you 3 readings. Let me make sure. So I want to make sure that I'm representing them correctly. But so I just did one at 4 o'clock, and my stress is at 34%, which is light. My energy is at 53%, which is average. And my health is at 95%, which is resilient. But that's really good because if I went back a couple days, I was stressed out, and it says to you, it says, you need to not work out this morning. This morning, my stats weren't very good. I had an appointment scheduled with my trainer, and, I was just feeling run down.
Yeah.
And well, Tori said, you might want to take it easy. So I texted Maricon, my trainer, and said, I didn't say, my app said I might.
Right.
I just said, hey, I've been pushing it hard and I'm feeling like it's catching up to me. Should we have a light workout or should we cancel? And she said we should cancel. So, again, it's just understanding. It's just understanding so you can perform better. Because, as you and all your listeners know, we're entrepreneurs, so we tend to push.
Yep.
And that's what we're all learning from the pandemic is that that exertion needs to be followed by rest. If there's not recovery, that's what leads you to burnout. So I was telling you about this this program that I'm in. The guy who started the program built his retail business to $100 million.
Wow.
Was burned out, sold it. Took a couple years off because he was so burned out.
Yeah.
And then said, wait a second, the world is filled with people like me, mid-career, working too hard, all of a sudden not becoming very efficient, not becoming very effective, not living the life that they want to live. And he had figured out how to solve that problem. So he created a whole company around that problem. So.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, I talk about this on my first episode back for season 2. I had about a couple of months mostly off. And when I moved back and relocated back to Colorado, and the team basically did a lot of the day-to-day and didn't need me as much. And I created it that way. And I needed that break. And what I got out of that, like the answers that I had, the clarity, the visions, where are we going? What do I want? And then I just got so energized by it too, that now I'm back and I'm in my groove. And I say this to Dustin a lot. I just said it last night. I just feel so aligned with what I'm supposed to be doing, where I am. Yeah. And it gives you that energy and it feels good. And, I do have days this week and we're going through some family stuff right now. And so I haven't felt as hard to push it as hard or as late because I've been doing 12 to 15 hour days, but I'm wanting to because I'm loving what I'm creating. Right. But then, there's these moments of wow, I really can't push today. So I'm not going to. And just letting myself have that break, that was a big lesson for me over the past few months. So I so agree with what you're saying.
That's awesome. And so, there's two things that I want to, again, we're just talking about us, but I'm hoping that your listeners get thoughts from this. But one is, so Susan and I have been having this conversation. So again, it's, what got you here won't get you there. And, so we spent 20 years raising our family and building a business at the same time. Then it becomes a question of what you want. And the conversation that Susan and I have and what I would like to do, and I think Susan's going to is on board, is to have a sabbatical. Take 6 months or a year off. And then during that 6 months, you build your business the right way, which is a statement that leads to my second point. But then during that, so you build your business so it doesn't need you, and then you step away from it, and then the answer will come as it came to you. So it could be that we both that we both are happy being retired, and then we could sell the company and be retired. Or it could be that I want to go back to work and Susan doesn't, or we both want. Right. Giving your brain the rest allows the answers that are already in your heart and already in your mind, which is what coherence is, by the way. Yeah. Well, that whole idea of the heart math is, this idea that your mind and your brain and your heart are truly biologically connected. But if you give it the chance, the right answers will come.
Exactly. And that's the key, giving it
And
the
that's the
chance.
key.
Yeah.
And you have to give it the chance. And
Yeah.
so that's the conversation that we're having. But what I wanted to lead to was this idea, and this is always front and center in the Platinum Mastermind Group meetings, not front and center, but it's always a conversation. This idea of building a business so that it serves your life.
Mm-hmm.
And Maureen, I've shared this story a lot of times, and she's given me permission. But Maureen Doran, who is a very, very successful retailer, when she joined the Platinum Mastermind Group, she was a self-professed hot mess. But that's what,
Right.
And then Jessica Betancourt, when she joined and she brought her team to the summit, when we were talking about I was talking about hot mess on stage, and Jessica's team looked at her and were they talking about you?
Uh-oh.
But so there's this idea that when you're growing your business, you're very tactical. You're always looking for ideas. But when you become a more skilled, more mature business person, then you start looking for structure. Then you start to create, all of those sort of umbrella skills, those higher level skills that allow you to step away from your business so that you're not in the weeds all the time. And I think
Right.
that's one of the mistakes that retailers make is they're looking for ideas, not looking for solutions.
Yes.
And, I've done several real retail TVs about this, but this idea that every problem is a blessing because a problem points to a skill that you don't have. It points to a need to learn something, a need to do something. So, I called it the subtle shift that saved my business. Okay, I'm not sleeping well. Okay, that's a problem.
Yep.
What do I do? And then then you just go do the research, you make the plan, you buy the expensive cooling mattress, you buy you start figuring it out. And that's the same thing with retail. But when people are too deep in the weeds, they don't look up and, they don't find that stuff. They don't find the pieces to give them the freedom. And, congratulations to you. You clearly had built the business and had built the team so that you could step away for a couple months and then rest and come back. Yeah. And I think that's a really valuable lesson for everybody who's listening to this. If you're overwhelmed, treat it as a blessing, because what it means is that there's something you have to do to get out of it. And then when you find whatever that is, whether it's a skill, whether it's a shift in your belief, whether it's a new habit, whether it's breaking an old habit, then you're going to be better for it. Yeah. And that's the beauty of being an entrepreneur, is you're always getting better. And getting better is represented by more money, by more loyal customers, by more freedom in your life, by being able to take time off and things like that. So that idea of you're always building towards your vision of your business in your life, that's what I love about being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Same, Bob. Same. Said
I
beautifully.
know.
So many gold nuggets in there. Bob, tell us, what's the future of Whiz-Bang training?
Oh, well, we have a top secret new platform.
Yeah.
It's not top secret anymore. People are already getting on it. But if you know the Retail Sales Academy, we are creating the Retail Sales Academy Plus, and it is a platform that allows retailers to put their training on a very, very affordable platform. It's an incredibly robust training tool, and so we're super, super, super excited about it. Yeah. And did you get a chance to break it yet?
Well, I was gonna say I beta tested it this weekend, like totally trying to break it, and I found like very small things that are not related at all to like a bug or anything.
Yeah, good.
Like two simple things. I was blown away by this platform. I was just like, oh my gosh, I want all my courses living on this platform,
Good.
which is, I think, gonna, could be a potential in the future here. And to have, when I heard about this, when we were at lunch a few weeks ago, like for retailers to put their training for their store and their team and then access retail training by you guys or other people in the industry, whatever that for it to be in one place is it's a easy way for retailers to run their business. We're talking about systems here, right? And setting your business up. Like that's exactly what you guys are providing. And it was so beautiful. It was so easy to use. And I am so freaking excited for it.
Good. No, and so we're going to be, demoing it at the Retail Success Summit. So let's talk about your social media day and the social. And you were asking what's going on. So here we have three things. I'm writing a book that we're really hoping will have some pre-publication copies for everybody who comes to the summit. And we're launching a Retail Sales Academy Plus, and we have the Retail Success Summit coming up in June. And so for everybody who's listening to this, Crystal always does a social media day, and she speaks at the summit. So, tell us what you're going to do.
Yeah. Look, I don't know. I don't have many people ask me questions on my podcast, and you're turning it around here. But so Bob has this Retail Success Summit every year, and I think this will be my 11th year. I always lose track. I think last year was my 10th year. And it's my favorite. Like, we call it our Super Bowl. Like, it's such an exciting time of year. Members of my team go. We're so excited to be back in person. I'm sure you guys are too. It's it's just such a different. You guys nailed it with the virtual learning for the past 2 years, but to be in person with your peers, the energy is high. There's love, there's support, there's connection, there's learning. I'm going to be speaking about the 7 C's to create unimaginable success, because we've had so many of our retailers say, I could have never imagined this level of success. And I love hearing that. And there are certain steps that they take to get there. So I'll be sharing. Plus, Maddie, who's on my team, is going to have her debut on the Retail Success Summit stage. And she's going to be talking about short form video content like Instagram Reels and TikTok, which, I mean, you guys, TikTok is where it's at right now. The organic reach that you're getting there is insane. She's going to show some case studies. I mean, it's so cool what's happening. So that's going to be an awesome session. I can't wait for her to deliver that. And then that's at the summit. We then do our own day, like Bob said, the day before, social media day, because there's so much to talk about when it comes to social media that I came to Bob one year and was like, man, I can scratch the surface, but there's a lot more we could do here. What if we had our own day? And people have loved it. It's been so great to be able to go deeper. And we're excited. It's the day before. Yeah. So the only way you can go, though, is you have to have your ticket to the summit. And we'll link to all of this, too, so you can get your summit ticket, social media day, but it's epic.
Hey, Crystal, so let me do this, because, I mean, as we record this today is the last, well, we're going to do an April Fool's Day tomorrow, but really tomorrow is the last day for the super early bird special. And so normally the first ticket is $9.97. Every subsequent ticket is $2.97. But for your listeners, if they hear this, if they call our office, so if you wouldn't mind putting a link to our 800 number. Okay. If they call our office and tell them that, they listen to Crystal Uncorked, that we're happy to offer that super early bird special to any of your listeners,
Awesome.
After the super early bird has expired. So
love it. And that's $4.97 for the ticket, right?
$4.97.
Yeah. So that's $500 off. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's half price, $9.97 to $4.97. And so, Crystal, I mean, So I'll just share this real quickly. One of the things that we love is that people come from all over the world.
Yep.
I mean, Mark Turnbull, this is going to be his fourth one, and he's coming from the UK. We've had Maurizio came from Italy, I think 3 years in a row. We've had people, I mean, literally come from all over the world. Somebody came from India. I mean, she flew in, did 2 days of the summit, and flew back to Mumbai.
Wow. Yeah.
So, you know, I know people go, oh, it's a lot of travel. It's a lot of this. It's a lot of that. It goes back to what we were talking about. There's always a reason not to do something that's good for you.
Right.
Find the reason to do something that's good for you. And, you know, you're right. You know, just to get out of your business and to become re-energized and refreshed and to we're going to really talk about what the future of retail looks like. We have a virtual keynote speaker, Joel Comm, and we're in a mastermind with Joel. And he's going to talk about NFTs and crypto. And so everybody who's listening to this, since most of your listeners are independent retailers, you're probably going, NFTs and crypto, oh my God, please. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out Apple Pay, right? But so Joel gave a presentation on NFTs to this group, you know, sort of an internet marketers mastermind. And both Susan and I are like, okay, all right, but we'll watch it. And then we were watching it, and it was really literally like, oh my God, you and I and Susan talked about this, you know, so then Susan did, you know, basically gave a recap of Joel's program at the Platinum Mastermind Group meeting. And so the same thing, we said, well, we're going to talk about crypto and NFTs. And everybody started to roll their eyes. And by the time it was done, everybody's going, oh, that's interesting. And Joel's the guy, he was one of the first guys to make a fortune off AdSense. He, you know, I mean, he's been on the front of all of these trends. He created an app, a fart app, and I forget how much money he made.
Really?
But you know, it was when apps were brand new, and you'd hit your phone and it'd sound like a fart. And you know, I don't know, he charged 99 cents or something like that, and sold tens of thousands of dollars worth. So, but you know, all of these things that people need to start thinking about. That's what you do. That's what we do. We think about the things that retailers should think about. And so the summit's going to be fun this year.
I know. I am so excited for the summit. And I actually met Joel Comm in 2009. I have a picture of him and I. He wrote the book Twitter Power, and he signed it for me, and I met him. And I was like starstruck because I'd followed him on Twitter, and he was like one of the main Twitter guys, and you know, since the beginning. So I'll send you that picture. We look like babies, that's for sure. It's so funny. Yeah, it's really funny, but I'm so excited for his talk. We actually have an episode coming up about NFTs with my friend Stacey Murphy. So listeners, be on the lookout for that, because I so agree, Bob. It's our future. Retailers need to know about it. There are so many amazing things you could do. So I'm so stoked for that keynote, but all the content is always so great. And Bob, tell everybody where they can connect with you.
Sure. WhizBangTraining.com. If you go there, you can sign up for our tip of the week. We have sent 1,010 weekly tips. And so when you join our list, you will get a weekly tip. You will also get a link to our Real Retail TV. That's a video blog that I do. I don't know, I'm at episode 110 or 120. Nice. So I would absolutely recommend that you join our community that way. We also have a Facebook group called Whiz-Bang Retailers, and it is relentlessly positive, because if anybody comes in talking shit and big and negative,
you're out.
And so, I mean, it's a really, really robust community, and I would encourage you to join there. And by the way, Crystal, thank you for your robust answer to my question about hiring a social media manager.
Yes, of course.
Cobbler with no shoes.
I know. I am always happy to help. And thanks for tagging me, because sometimes I miss those questions. So I am so glad.
I miss half the stuff too. I mean, you know, I could literally be on Whiz-Bang Retailers 5 hours a day.
Yep.
So what I try to do is I just try to watch for any time the thinking is going wrong.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And that happens, right? People,
Yeah.
Somebody starts thinking incorrectly about the customer experience, or, starts thinking incorrectly. When people are thinking incorrectly, I find it my professional duty to jump in and share my opinion. But there's just so much. And if you have questions, people are so willing to share. So I would encourage you to join that community too.
Yeah, it's a very active Facebook group. We'll link to all this, but I really recommend joining the Facebook group and participating. There's so much that we don't know. We didn't know, and we don't always know too, like what to ask. And so you can learn so much from what people are asking, what they're saying. And I also just want to say, Bob talked about systems for your business and getting clear on what you want and being able to take that time and that break. And retailers are able to do that through the Retail Mastery System. It teaches you how to create these systems, which we'll also link to in addition to the Retail Sales Academy, and be on the lookout for the Plus version, which I'm stoked for.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time and a lot of money making this. And so, it's like everything. It's like, to all your listeners, you open a store, there's always kind of the assumption, build it and they will come, but they don't always come, right? And so, we were quite confident that it was, that we were filling a real need in the community. But it's just so gratifying to hear, especially somebody like you who we respect so much and who is in tune with our community. When I say our, I mean me, you, all your listeners, that you're excited about it. So that's I'm happy about that.
Well, and even I've built a lot of training courses, and I know the tech, and your guys' tech is very easy to use. And so for retailers to use it, whether they're being trained or to upload their own, like this is just such a beautiful solution. So I'm so excited. I can't wait for your book too. So Bob, just one more cheers. I barely have any wine left, but one more cheers.
Me neither. I was looking, I'm going, I'm getting a little flush. I'm usually not this flush in the studio. But anyway, all right, Crystal.
Cheers.
My fairly spotty glass.
Yep.
All right.
We got our cheers. This was such a great conversation, Bob. Thank you so much for sharing everything that you did and opening up and being there for our retailers. I so honor you and Susan. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Crystal. And you keep up the good work, too. You're doing good stuff. So we'll all keep plugging away. Independent retail is the future. And we serve independent retailers. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to do.
Yes, I completely agree. So everybody go check out Bob. We'll link to everything. Let us know what you thought of this episode. Share it with any of your retailer friends. Be sure to check out. We would love to see you in person at the summit and social media day. And for me, I feel like I'm going to be hugging everybody. I hope everybody's okay. I just really can't wait to hug and be in person. So it will be so great, Bob. Thanks again.
You're welcome.
And everybody else, I'll see you on the next CU. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right, let's keep this conversation going. Join me on Instagram. I'm at Crystal Uncorked. And I need to tell you, thank you so much for listening to this show. It truly means the world to me. If you're enjoying Crystal Uncorked, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Okay, I'll see you on the next CU. Cheers, friend.